das ist ja auch teilweise so ein Philosophisch.
So, that's right.
I think we let you many times this time.
Yeah, that's psychology.
We let you
A lot of time.
a lot of time.
What do you think?
So,
Okay, so
we are.
are you starting maybe? Because she's not. Okay. So that's me.
Welcome.
Hey!
Sorry for interrupting.
Finally.
Hi.
Here.
Good to see you.
First, our designer just made her master degree in architecture.
Bachelor's degree.
Huh?
Bachelor's.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And she tomorrow morning she will speak about. I think it's very interesting for you.
Ah, the one
About Sarajevo.
Oh yeah, the
Question
one
of hidden memory and how to reveal hidden and blessed memory. I think there are joining points on projects I see you do in septembre and you do in Sarajevo. And we just, here we had intensive last day yesterday and this morning discussions, and then we did a short workshop moment, if it's possible to find the translation. And that's a little bit the moment now when we make a resume, but it's not, we will hear a little bit if there were too much inputs, how to find a way and so on. So please take seats. You with us.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, already.
Thanks a lot.
We made actually not a shirt, but in Sarajevo the first time. And there was a studio from the chair of architecture and urban, and then we just met last week, huh?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was coming from your project, and I said, okay, come and present it here. And Alexandra she's jumping into, she came from somewhere and jumped into the train to go to the other place.
I'll try my best.
And she will spend half or 1 year in Paris in our studio up from October.
Oh, yeah, we have to update it with the camera.
Okay, and we are actually
the problem.
a little group here. It's intensive, but it's really like I'm leaving tonight, so as I said, and another colleague came, and she. So it's really this logic of giving the Stab weitergeben. I just been speaking Swiss German. So this is the English Swiss German.
Exactly.
Or not shared language. I don't know which languages are behind you. German also.
No, my German is not good, although if I pick up, like, no. I mean, Italian, I can offer Italian, Spanish, and English, and I understand French, by the way, so if you prefer.
Okay. No, so we do English. Okay. So you just jump in, we start a little bit to speak, and I think this was the group which started because we had a lot of inputs, the section about subtle bodies, where also a doctor and medical approaches from different cultural backgrounds gave inputs, and it was a lot about this question of what are points of stabilization so that you have the chance to be open-minded, because when you are disoriented or instable, it's quickly closing. And this was said concerning design projects. We had architect Jacques Ferrier, who worked 2 days with us. We went to it yesterday. And for him, for example, it's an ambition to let in the development of a concept of an architectural project, to let the first phases not to make architectural proposals, to let these phases very open, that to text, to poetry, to whatever, that you don't make a proposal. This is true for if you meet people that you are open-minded and not you are going on prejudice. Mika is filmmaker. The question not maybe to shoot since the first second or not to have the first narration, but maybe to let, or could be, I'm now that's to say, and came to this point to ask which role can designer play in this. A lot of input and maybe also critical or problematic because it went really to terms and to questions which are often treated in psychology, psychotherapy, or whatever, about stabilization of morality and so on, which can be seen as productive or not, or whatever. So that's my introduction, and now maybe, I don't know, you can give a feedback, or you want or not.
I don't know, because I try to find something to express, but we talk about the idea to connect ourselves with the other, with the energy, with the possibility to help ourselves to be in connection with the body and with the other. And I think that, for example, the last things that because I spoke about my experience, my calligrapher, my idea of it. But at the last minute of our discussion, it is interesting that after all this words about self-centered energy and so on, I think one thing that for me is important, that when I began to go to my workshop, the first time I have a child of 1 year old, and I remember that I go on my train and then began to cry because I want to do this. I think it is the right thing for me, but also if I am not a Catholic predicant, my education, my information, my body think that is something wrong. That is, it is this always this because with what is the name? Sandra. We talk a lot of this now because my energy, my capacity, and we have a lot of connection of all the things. But I remember what is difficult, this line to arrive in this situation. And it is not obviously because you know very well that I ever in guilt, we have this sentiment of guilty with my family, with my heart. So I think that is very important to try to reaffirm this situation every time, every moment, to think to this situation and not to let there is a difference from the memory of the body and the idea of the body that you have. And this expression that I have to find, but I don't find now, it is mushina, that is two ideogram, that is no mente, and shin is the same for brain and heart. It is something that you have to use to protect you from the out, and at the same time to be open to new connection. So I don't know what is the sign of this sincerely. I always think to the answer, because the answer is, I don't know if all of you know what is answer. Answer is the Japanese or Chinese is a circle doing with calligraphy, and it's the same things for Chinese and Japanese with some little difference. But the things that is important for me, it's the gest of the movement, and so this idea to connect all the one who are, but not all the one person, but all the things.
Integrate all the.
But at the same time, there is a not concluded. There is always a space. And because I'm quite in difficulty this morning when Cinzia say of this close circle of energy, because I don't know, I like to think that we are in connection, but we are always some space to decide when you are here and when you are there, because sometimes I think that we've been also this, it will be and sometimes abstraction, I don't know. I was very happy when I, for example, instead of that, when I practiced Tai Chi, for example, the first movement of Tai Chi, it is very energetic. Now you have all, I don't know, for me it's I have my hand that is vibrating as, it is something that is more, for me it's more energetic, that to depend to the other. It is important to have the other in the circle, but I think that it's also important to have the presence of myself. I don't know if this is very
I think it's interesting, but I wouldn't command this now. I think it's an input, and we hear other inputs because it's a reflection of what was the input of the last 2 days, and maybe we can say something later. Because I think you will maybe, as you were in the same room, maybe you speak a little bit about your perception.
Ja,
Oh,
das
das
muss ich auch
ist
nochmal in
schön.
Deutsch machen.
Ah ja, okay. Yeah, yeah, I translate it. Or you understand it?
A bit, yeah, it depends.
Ich habe das Gefühl, dass dieser Ausflug in die Achtsamkeit oder Psychotherapie oder dass das in einem Feld ist, was eigentlich keine gesellschaftliche Praxis derzeit hat. Und dass, wenn man zurückschaut in die Geschichte, wir viel in Gesellschaften Achtsamkeiten und Wahrnehmung und Arbeit für Resilienz eigentlich in den Gesellschaftsformen immer gehabt haben und das keine besondere explizite Sache ist, jetzt mit irgendetwas zu kommen, was nicht gelebte Praxis ist. Ich glaube, dass es ein Aspekt ist, den man mit reinnehmen kann, aber eigentlich eher die Kräfte Einzelner befördert und es keinen kollektiven Ansatz mit in sich trägt. Und dass viele Leute, die eigentlich nicht die Freiheit haben oder die Möglichkeit haben, aufgrund von Traumatisierung oder Lebensumständen diese Zugänge nicht haben werden. Und deswegen ist es für mich wirklich nur ein Punkt, der irgendwie inspirieren kann, aber kein wesentlich.
Yeah, it's a resume. I have a critique on this resume, but I try to say it objectively, or I don't know, to make the translation. That we asked to make maybe a form or to make a resume or something, and for you the you had the observation that what the input was about psychology, about individual freedom, and not about collective form or about something collective. And that for you, this is a kind of privileged attitude, which is not part of the normal life, which is in the normal life practice, and that people are excluded from these practices because they are more like yoga and is all these kind of psychological. So this is the perception, and it's legitimate perception.
Obviously.
So if I understood right, it's a little bit this, and for you, it's not really a kind of inspiration for the work or whatever. I can comment. I don't know if it makes sense.
I think
why?
it's important that it's this way, because I every time I would look in the past, but it's a kind of knowing of history, how Achtsamkeit,
Nobody
was
spoke
trained.
about this word. It was not.
Yeah.
It was not said.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
What word? Sorry?
It's Achtsamkeit. It's not attention, but it's a kind of I don't know how to, it's maybe an attention to everything, and you see the interrelation. I have to say why this section was chosen was not to, it's interesting to make individual processes, but what I think it's very interesting, and it's about knowledge and non-knowledge, is that this is a different perception of space. So what yesterday the philosopher Remy spoke about is how you can extend the space, and I think it's extremely important for architects, urban designers, and designers who are conceiving our environments, how you can extend space just by presence, radical presence, how when we conceive containers in which we live, that what? It's wrong word.
No, I'm so tired. I'm
super conditions, and it's interesting because these practices are, for me, and I think it's important, very old knowledge. One of the motivation of making the Scuola the non-savoir is not it's for us because we are curious about this, but it's again, there is a big part of our society, and the young part of the society, which is ill, which is incompatible with this society. And it's not that we are healing in the sense of healing, but it's how can we conceive different conceptions of living together, which is the basis of design, because design is creating relations. And I think it's important to understand which kind of relations and what environment does this create. And it's not that there are not other rituals creating this interrelation, but it's interesting to understand how it's functioning. And I think we are often, with all these virtual worlds which we are constructing, we are often separated. And exactly, it's interesting that you're saying people who are traumatized don't have access to this. The idea is exactly to find that people who are traumatized, that they have access again. It's for me, these are strategies to re-autonomize the individual.
Okay, I can comment into the picture, because could be that all the time when we talk about a boy was playing with a smartphone, and we have and I have the whole the time. I think it's possible to get a contact to him. And I have two situations. I have some, and he was very interesting. He was, and I think if I'm in a situation and talk about something theoretical, theoretically, and the group doesn't act in this sense. And we couldn't find a solution this boy to integrate in our process. For me,
But why haven't you done it?
This is, you can.
No, but you have, now, the question was to find the form.
Also
And the form is critique, and the form is not the film, how you involve this part. Or could this be an answer also?
Yes, yeah.
And I think this is it, because I understand your critique.
It's too easy to deconstruct. It's a little bit the same we had yesterday from this Toulouse woman. It's easy to deconstruct. The point is, there is not existing, and we try to do something. And we don't have the solution. It's a really difficult. And I think we can also not say after a half hour, this is not wrong or this is not wrong. Sure. I will present absolutely in the exhibition 6 who are wrong. I think it's important. We don't have only to present the solution. We have to make this elementary question. And this is, in this way, what you say is interesting, but take it in visualization.
I think it's, your critique starts to be interesting when you're saying, okay, now I heard all this. With my way, I'm applying it in your photo. Is, even if it's a critical response, it's a creative response. With this, I can do something, and now the scenario could start. It's this way or other voice. And I think even with proposals, and that's why we do so different proposals here, even if I say this is not, or there it's not, it's still an input, and it's maybe inspiring as what is really brutal, because I'm living this long time, that some things which are, I understand it seems like, that's why I want to practice these things and not speak about it. Because about what we have spoken, we just have spoken because this is an other vehicle to share. But the golden circle you have lived is 10 times stronger, even if it was just a little example we now take it again and again.
I'm okay with that.
And I think it's not close, it's not individual, but again, this is why to transfer this knowledge, and Remy has good capacity to do it yesterday, but finally he says, normally he said, I'm just talking because you have to take the spot, you have to hold the posture, and I'm just help you that you are not, he never normally gives speeches without practicing. Because it's not possible. You can't say the same thing that which you are explaining. But I'm just what I wanted is a different model of interrelation, because we have the rational model of the urbanist, even if it's a very open-minded urbanist, but this is another model of space, interconnection, and interrelation, which we have heard from different perspectives. This was in this section. I thought it's interesting. What we are doing, we are connecting it with things we know. You made your experiences with this.
Just to open the discussion about this point, I think it's absolutely interesting to look at this possibility. And also if it is for church, also if it is only 10 persons who see it, that is absolutely egal. I don't make media. I try to find out the solution, and then we don't have to make a panel. Or we take this at all the school. We speak at Lea. How the fascist? How she?
Italian fascist.
We say she has to reproduce it at each school. So we have
Yeah.
No, I think the media is another thing. This is after. we do a little exhibition. This is not important. What is important is our work of research with a visual research on what we do. Very difficult to visual research, and it's for me absolutely different. As I don't say it for you, I see it very well for the design research groups. Mostly they do they take this and bring it in a theory. Here we try really to find solutions of elements. We don't have the solution in visual communication. So this is not yet. But perhaps we will have a trend, inshallah. But I think that's I hope also we will have many inputs, and after we will perhaps find. But also it's important to know this Italian, and this was also, sorry, we are in a so complex discussion.
Sorry, I'm just trying to,
We will have a resume of 3 days now, of 3 days of this step for me is a step from this semester, is a step who in principle we say it's a French-Italian exchange. This is not to exclude the others, it's also to say, okay, we start somewhere and then we enforce. I think we make exceptions yet, so it's not a problem. But was this idea of concentration of two neighbor cultures, and then say if we have enough experiences and we mistake enough and make wrong elements, we can make a second step, who will be a new briefing and perhaps a new approach with other countries.
But I'm not. It's good what you said, but I'm not okay to say this is little approach, because I think why I'm insisting on this. I think that we are dominated by different, and that's what I want to find out, different model of planning. You still have this rational idea to make a plan and to adapt the reality to planning. We are, where they have an augmentation of virtual realities, of all this machine communication, which is occupying our mind, and we are so much externalized, and this makes a lot of diseases, isolation, depression, and so on, which makes that we are closing our room, and this is creating an atmosphere in which a special type of development is not possible. And I think it's very interesting. It's a different concept of space, a different concept of relation to the future, planning and designing and conceiving. And it's a different model of interrelation. And these three elements, this is not because there were little elements of psychology, but these are very old traditions, which sometimes are inscribed in rituals, which are all these terms we know from wellness and shalala, but it's an old tradition to organize living together. Sorry. Interrelation. This was, and I just want to bring it back to this.
I was in your
It's often these moments are brought into this other cage, and then I can't escape from this anymore. And that's what, for me, is important. That we keep this open to see it as a model of perceiving. And what does this mean for creation? And it's maybe different for creation with big forms, like design, and form which is maybe documentary or which is mirroring. These are two creative approaches. Eins macht sozusagen das Spiegeln und Relation zeigen und durch sie anders zeigen auch transformieren. Und das andere gibt einfach auch Formen oder Repräsentationen und schließt auch damit vielleicht das Gute. Und deswegen müssen andere Sätze manchmal finde ich, ist wichtig, weil ich bin von so viel Planern umgeben, die einfach planen und dann muss ich wirklich alles dem unterwerfen. Ich finde, wir sind unfrei in unserer Welt. Es ist nicht, it's also this individual freedom to express or not, but it's what you describe is interesting, but it's not interesting. It's just interesting because what you are saying is that we are socialized in a special way of men, how to be a woman, how to be designer, how to be, we have this, and then we have other inscriptions or cultural or wishes and so on, and we have this conflict of these different concepts, and we have to integrate them to do the next step. And this is important because we also in this, it's important for the collective. I think there are these two levels which now came together, and we don't have to. I think those are important because if we got more autonomy in this, we are also more autonomous in the collective. I know that a lot of people are practicing it, and it's not yet, or they're practicing it in an egoistic way. But it's also the integration of these two models. If the world is still functioning on a really a different paradigm, where this schizophrenic situation, how to translate one to the other. And I agree that people are practicing gestures which are already completely integrated. They don't have to go. School is passed because they're doing it. And they have the same conflict that sometimes reality doesn't mesh with reality. So for some it's not necessary, but I think suffering of so many people for this, it's interesting, and for our dominant thinking concepts, it's also important. Right?
No, it's really, but it's also, I think that for me, personally, I'm put into this problematic in a very
direct or
no, but also it's something that I know I say yesterday, there is a lot of things that come back in my mind and so on. And I think that I have not the distance, but the time to elaborate the situation, because for the moment in this today, I only take input, and I try to connect with some experience and some something. You say the things of the guilty. It is I have just now, because I think I remember that I have this sensation and so on, and so I think that is the things that I think is important from the one who say, I mean, the speech we have with Sandra, is that if we don't find our idea of the balloon that say yesterday, really, it's difficult also to do the expansion. So there are two steps. In the first,
I'm not sure about this.
No, sure.
I know. I think this still a little bit this approach of I know. I wait that I'm sure about my idea, and then I make the representation. What we try to do is absolutely the contrary, is to represent also what we are not sure. To represent also elements who And I think we
No, I understand what
need
you're
to
saying.
do this, because if we don't do this, we will not have this culture of
But,
openness.
I think that is, some is true for me, but I think also that if I have no, my, center, my idea of, with my, this sort of balloon, I am in a position that I can.
The only thing, what I think is in between the two is, you're right, and at the same time, you never will come to the state where this is perfect.
Oh,
So
obviously,
you can
obviously.
go on this way, but every day you
No,
go.
obviously, this is
And this is
true.
This is
This is
perfect,
true.
and this is sometimes a problem that you wait for perfection in this being really encouraged.
But this is a
But
problem in everything.
And then I think, because I have to go and I want to hear what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are proposing.
me too.
That's all.
It's just what I think is, that's what I want
Okay.
to say, that doesn't matter.
No, okay, but I understand what you are saying, it is perfect, but it's not only for this, it is, I think that it's for all the things.
So, I mean, the interesting thing is, these are thoughts which are old, but they haven't had any legitimacy anymore. And the interesting thing is, because of ecological crisis and so on, systemic thinking is coming back in these disciplines. And we have it in the shared field, and sociology is coming back, and anthropology. It was there, but it was not there as a legitimation or better understanding to do the same architecture. And now, because of some crises, approaches which help us to think more systemic, and others have it already, but it's in very hard rational disciplines. Other factors come to be taken into account, and I think this is really interesting. But it's still not easy way to position it. Yeah, it's.
I think it's very interesting to make a relation between what we represent and the way that we have to be when we make the conception analysis. And diese Gelassenheit, we have to use it also in the representation, and the way to go to a representation.
But I'm very happy
don't
about
have to
this
be-
picture and about your side. No, really. For me, these are very
Yeah.
productive answers, which are questions. So, or critique, which it both opens.
Yeah.
So there's, but now we would.
I have a drawing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because I have the feeling that maybe I missed something, but like, just like, what I've done. So, I was in the metro, not looking for the genius love sheet, but just like, just like try to actually to think about what was the impression of, it's a sketch, so it's like, I do better drawings. But like, this is just a sketch. And I was thinking like in the metro, and actually I came out at Conciliazione again because I missed Cadorna and I was in Duomo, so it was a really quick sketch. Because when I draw, actually I'm really slow. Like maybe I can show you just a quickly like what it could be. But I don't know, just like how I think, how I translate the perception that I have of being in such energetic context, like in the train of like the underground in Milan at this time, actually, in Duomo. So it was like, that specific context, I know it's not like the metro in Rome, it's not the metro in different colors, different lines, different energies. It's not, I would never put this, for example, if I think about Berlin. I don't know, it's like full of junkies. Not exactly so. I mean, it's colorful, but also it depends what. So, yeah. And so I need to
More
force,
like this.
what, sorry?
More like this.
I think also, yes, as I wanted to do a sketch, I did not use lines because I usually want to show you. Actually, yesterday, I think it could be almost the same, but different. I mean, it wasn't that, this was like the lesson of yesterday.
Wow, this is.
That's more my style, but the other was a sketch. I don't know how to say.
It's very interesting because
I'm showing you
this
quickly.
book about time from. You remember the?
Yeah,
How?
remember.
How's the number?
La cosa del tempo, l'ordine del tempo
L'ordine del tempo.
di Carlo Rovelli.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he come up on this, he say, there are not one time, there are millions of
Millions
times.
times.
Yeah.
Each musical element has its time, and it's only about relation. And you do this kind of draw who has probably, you have to read this book.
I
It's-
should-
I-
I know,
I
actually,
don't know.
it's-
And it's
Yeah,
interesting also
I
there are
need to-
two,
We have all the same feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's-
there are also two conferences online, one on TED and one on another
The
in
Carlo.
English di Carlo Rovelli, tutte e due sull'ordine sul tempo.
Just looking for like a drawing I want to show you. Sorry, stop.
Ah, ok. Pensavo tu cercassi lui perché
No. Like, this is another, like I did after this yoga retreat in the airplane. And it was the feeling of, because we closed the, we did all this energetic thing. It was a kind of kundalini, it wasn't really energetic, but then it was really cool because the teacher said, now you should like try to stock the energy along your spine. And we did the 3 blocks asana. So like the pelvic, the belly, and the core. So we closed this thing. And we needed to think about like stocking the energy. And I really had a feeling that was like, it was my last day in the morning. And then I was in the airplane, I felt drugged, like it was so happy. I mean, I still feel kind of like this, I haven't been drawing for so long, and this kind of things, I'm always doing it, like this kind of thing.
But it's, I think,
I
what is
think
it?
That's a word actually, I'm not going to say this is a
because it is.
And the interesting
sorry.
thing is, why are we not thinking that it's because from material-wise, we would do if we do a material analysis of we are water, why is it not possible that this is happening without any?
Yes, that's
But
written.
the thing is, how can we gain space and autonomy? That's what is, I think, is interesting for those who want to build environments which are interacting. I think it's interesting. But for example, I like this also because spine.
This is more my style, it's like, but this it takes like 6 hours, and it's like
It's
this.
beautiful, but I
So-
think it's very.
So like I really need to force myself to
What-
fix,
What is good on our panel, you can take many, so
that would
you
be
can
cool.
make one semester.
I
to
can
do-
also scribe very easily. But like,
The point, I see a little bit energy in each of your drawer.
I'm happy about that.
We can say it's energy. And the point,
Yeah,
if I bring again this book out, the point is how expression you take to at first bring us to say this is energy, and second to say perhaps there are different situations of energy.
Yes,
And
yes,
how word can
yes.
explain this, and then you have a very good. I think this is a very
Yeah, actually, this is a bit, this sketchbook, it's a bit this, I tried this process, like,
a little bit Sumatra.
Yeah.
You're alone and.
yeah, no, but this is like, this is an example, it was like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, but like, I know, I mean, I also really get into trance when I draw.
Well, I think
It's really my healing process.
I think
That's why I feel so good in the last few years.
I think it's a really good entrance. Is the statue. I will be a little bit young.
Good, yes, please.
To say, I'm not interested on your art, but I'm interested in this tentative you have to express something who is not visual.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I will a little bit
Demystify.
demystify the art and say, okay, you take a text or a title, and then, wow, there are different kinds of energy. This energy is the subway. This energy is when I do my mantra. And
It could be like one day, the energy of one day.
or the energy in one day. What change with the space? So
Space, what are the inputs which maybe had an influence?
This is a
what was because I'm agree with you to say what is the energy I have in me and what is transmission of energy, what's come to be a collective energy. I think this is very important.
Yeah, and it starts also how we use this word all the time. What is energy? Is this feeling, a collective force, or whatever? There are different words. Even it's concentration. It can have different forms. And what I like very much, just 1 second, because I think the picture, and we had this already yesterday, and so on, it's what you photographed is a potential of relation or not yet relation. We don't know something, it's kind of, but already, because they're sharing for a moment the same place, there is a relation. Even if it's not already constructed, if you would see it as an energetic field, you have a lot of components who are constructing this place. Plants, the mobiliar, the guy, the media, all these are co-creating the space. And it's interesting, and the condition of the mind, if the people is there who's very nervous, creating another, it's really this collectivity and collective construction, which is interesting. And I think you are very much in this seeing the world via its self-insinuation, to see the input elements, as yesterday you described the scene, that you can either you see the mobiliar, you see the screen, or you see all these other interactions in which this is also a dispositive which starts to, and I think this is interesting. It's just about them and how that it's not to say I'm doing a nice place, I'm doing a nice design, or I'm doing a public space, and now live. And we have so many design of this, of empty places, which cost a lot, which are sold as places of potential, but nobody understood that there are, I don't know, there is a memory, collective memory, which can get cross people this place. So this is not to harmonize, but to say, what do I have to do if this is the intention, that people cross again? I think you will speak about this, or and the observation of moments of potential and impossible relations. This, for example, is really interesting, and that's
energy.
I think, as you found your representation, this is really interesting, and this is poetry. These forms, besides language, are forms to share what the impulse is doing with us. I think.
Okay, so
Now we're going to
can
speak
you
about
also, if you can,
from yesterday, I have the idea of the relation.
it's not finished.
Yeah.
It's
something
kind
that
of
is
can
really,
almost
like the one I say, not
so
the
we
woman
can start
who was,
to see it as a pattern.
this one.
But you see,
You make a composition.
you see potential.
That's one.
Yeah,
I
like
see
the
also
one
what's
of the two, because this is a disconnection, then the one, I don't know,
Yeah, but not too
no, the
low.
one who they are on the,
Overlooking, we can say, okay, now we have, with Jacques
Slate, yeah.
a lot about
This is
chronology
that,
as well.
the one
Structure
over
of-
this.
That's one dimension. You make structure is a comparative structure. The end is a comparative
No, no,
structure of elements who are difficult to be represented. That's another way to make a panel. And so I think we have all the syntaxes. And if we can bring as a students this understanding of the syntaxes, it's a very good help to bring them to something. You understand me? Or?
Yeah. I'm still thinking, meanwhile.
No, it's okay.
But I think it's really strong because we don't, how to say, often we don't allow us to find irrational, so-called irrational representation for those who have a connection to art or to connection to poetry. We know that these forms sometimes are so much better representing reality than a direct microscope way. And it's, I think it's about portraying,
What is
but
artistic?
portraying in the sense how to find the essential element.
Give me the artist and connect here.
It's, I,
No, this
it is
In this
interesting
case,
that
I don't
you
know.
take the form of
Here,
spiral, for example, which is, I don't know if you heard this from Remy, but for him it's the central figure of movement, is even if you are standing, everything is all the time spirals.
I left home.
Spiral.
I left home.
And either it was intuition or whatever, but it's interesting that this form comes out of it.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't thought about it, but it's interesting.
I don't know,
Even if you won't call it
say,
spiral,
send me
it's-
something.
I will show it to him and you will say,
Yeah, but
perfect illustration.
it always,
And that's.
yeah, no, like I wanted to show like the drawings, just like, because this is really, it's not art for me, but it's really different, so just like this process, also I need to force myself, also using pencils and not pens, for example, or there's also like the tool, it's so.
Oh, it's very interesting. Yesterday I spoke about this poet Dermat who really used his paintings when he hadn't had words anymore. And yeah, I said why I learned this, but and
It's good to make another walk.
for my child, yeah, for my girl about him, and I said, wow, this is really interesting because you read Humboldt and all this, but it's the same search that there are moments where you make a conceptual drawing, which is for you later. It's still the inspiration which is connected to your imaginario, and even if you can't decode it, or just 5 people can decode, it's still your reference. And sometimes when you haven't been able to say everything with your painting or your design or your film, and sometimes you find other expressions for what you haven't said. For him, for example, the medium is always then the written word, but the painting for him was before words, or untamed words, and to post-analyze or to critique. And it's interesting, this was his way to find another medium and the interaction of different mediums of expression. And yeah, I think that's
But So,
You have also the salsa?
Huh?
You have also salsa?
well, Safran, which is here. Okay, you have to go now.
I have to go.
We can do we can do after.
On der Lehrerauer, das war der Titel, und unter Christopher Bell. Ich habe sie schon separiert.
Okay, super. Alle Titel heißt, jetzt muss
So.
ich nur noch alle Titel von den, sorry, this is a little,
Also du hast für dich, dass du das Feld,
ja,
das einfach alle. Jetzt musst du
Okay.
einfach drehen.
oh, einfach.
Ja, aber ich kann.
Nein, alles gut. Ja,
Du schickst mir jetzt deine Biografie. Bitte.
das mache ich alles. Warte mal. Jetzt zum Zug und dann. Okay. Kleine side effects. I hope you integrate good work. You have thrown into a very crazy session.
If I'm not integrated, I'm fine just sitting somewhere and meditating or arriving. So great.
I'm sure you are very more fresh as what we are.
I'm
For sure.
Where you came from? You from
from Spain.
From Spain.
Ah, okay.
And you came over Zurich, eh? You just stopped by.
Yeah, I was actually at the airport in Madrid yesterday, already checked in. I figured I should actually fly to Milan. But then it didn't really work out, so I flew to Zurich yesterday night. And then
Took the train to you.
Took the train today.
Wow. It's
So
so engagement.
I think we close now.
There is the two girls on, no, there aren't.
That's
No, I think that, no, Sue, I don't know, I am Sue.
So has to present the second time.
No. Yeah, maybe, but not now.
Yes.
Now I'm searching for some photo that
No,
I
I'm
could
sure
take
you're
to but.
very good. Wait, just to speak about your proposition. You will be there tomorrow?
Let's see, I need to check the airplane, because I'm in Lodi, so I need to go to my place, so. I'll write you later, just need to figure out. Yeah, because I want to see the exhibition.
Ich bin noch hier, ja. Genau. And you are here, and I am here, and perhaps some gangsters are.
Yeah,
also
no,
present.
there are someone at home, yeah, obviously.
The idea is really to work 1.5 day with her approach about memory.
Okay,
So the memory of, it's okay?
yes, I didn't know it was half a day, but that sounds great.
No, tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but you give an input and then we are working, everyone's working
No,
with.
it's just,
Because I think that Micha can also maybe make again and will tell about his project,
Yeah.
about the museum of
Yeah.
habitants and so on, and because when you have introduced me, I'm not
But-
reading anymore.
but we really reflect this dimension of memory tomorrow. I think you have the elements, I have also.
Yeah.
So what mean memory, what mean also non-sapere, because the memory is losing or not choice.
Oh, this is mine.
All this.
Mhm.
So